Very clear in the last session. Lightning data services are just a counterpart of standard controller in the Visualforce. Whatever the task that standard controller is doing in the Visualforce page, same task Lightning data services are doing. Whatever the action that Lightning data service is doing, it is just done by the standard controller in the Visualforce page. Now here we need to understand the point. Whatever the sharing rules are there, whatever the OWDs are there, whatever the profile level securities are there, everything is respected by the LDS. Now, if I have only Visualforce page, I don't have any Apex class, I am taking only Visualforce page. If let me give you a quick example here. Now look at this. Now, I have a system admin profile. My profile is system admin. I have customer table. I have a last name. This is it. Now, for system admin profile, last name I told read write, first name read write, phone number not visible, city not visible. Now I designed a VF page, Apex page, standard controller. Now I am giving some, let us say, customer underscore last name. Now tell me how this Visualforce is going to run. Is it going to be with the sharing, or is it going to be user context or system context? Every Visualforce page will run in the context of user. Every Visualforce page will run in the context of user. Boss, whenever you are referring to a standard controller, it will always run the program in the context of a user. So, when I display this, only last name and name will be displayed, remaining two will not be displayed. Last name and first name is displayed, remaining two will not be displayed. Last name and first name is displayed, your phone number and city is not displayed. Why? Your Visualforce page with a standard controller will run in the context of user, not in the context of system. Now same, instead of standard controller, when I am trying to use controller, now we need to understand the point with and without sharing for the Lightning also. Now I have public. If I have some customer, if I am giving customer dot last name, now which data will be displayed now? Which data will be displayed? All the four variables will be displayed. Why? Because when you are running, when you define controller equal to example, the class is going to run as a without sharing. The class is going to run as without sharing. By default, the class will run like a without sharing. Now, if we are using a Visualforce page with a standard controller, always it is going to run like a user context. So according to your OWD, according to your profile, according to your sharing rules, whatever are visible, only they are accessible on the page. The moment I start using a controller in the VF page, then the question comes, boss, is this controller is a with sharing or without sharing? Is this controller is a with sharing or without sharing? The moment I say it's a controller without defining with or without, it will consider as without sharing. The moment I say it is a without sharing, program is going to run as a as a system context. When I say system context, what happened? When you write a query, when everybody is executing, when I execute a page, all the records in the table will come. When you execute all the records, I wrote a SQL query. When I wrote a SQL query, all the records in the table will come. When you write a SQL query, all the records will come. Why? Because they are running in the system context. Now when I said customer CUST, now it doesn't check whether profile have a permission or not. Everything is accessible to me because I am referring to this variable from Apex class. If you don't define that Apex class as with or without, it is going to be considered as without. No boss, even the class has to obey user context, then define the class as right. Some small kid also writing. Right. Okay. Now look at this. This is the format, right? With the sharing. Now what happened in this context? This is clear for everyone? This is clear? Right. The same context in the Lightning we are going to consider as LDS. So when you are using a LDS, it is going to run in the context of what? User. It is going to run in the context of what? User. So whenever I say LDS, it is going to run in the form of user context. Now I don't want to run in the form of user context, then go to the controller. When you go to the controller, again it is defined as with or without sharing. But here, what is our intention? Without interacting with the server, I want to perform some DML operations. Without interacting with the server, I want to perform some DML operation. That may be fetching a record, that may be uploading a record, that may be a saving a record, deleting a record, editing a record. So why are you going for standard controller? If I go to standard controller, I can fetch the data from the object without writing a SQL query. I can save the record without making a DML. I can edit. I can fetch the list of record based on the filter what we have used recently. The same operation on the Lightning, if you want to perform, we are going with LDS. So the LDS is going to run with user context. That is the reason I told LDS is a counterpart of standard controller in the Visualforce. If you want any logic to run as system context, go to Apex class, not a LDS. I hope you are good. Okay. Now, when you are going for the LDS, we are supposed to understand a couple of things here. What was that? First example. Okay. So, what was this? Look at the context. Because I'm not typing the notes, I'm just trying to give it from the documentation. Okay. Now, Lightning data service is similar to server side Apex controller. So, what was that? When you're going with this, what are the things you are trying to perform? Loading a record, saving a record, creating a record, deleting a record, record changes. Then we have other things like, what is other things? Errors, consideration, service example. Some of the points. Now the first thing that we are trying to understand, loading a record. We want to fetch the record. Whenever we want to load the record, first we need to understand about the interfaces. Now here the interfaces play a major role in the Lightning components. So if you want to use LDS service, Lightning data services, you need to implement an interface called force : you need to implement an interface has record ID. What is the interface you are supposed to have? What is the interface you are supposed to implement? Has record ID. So what is the interface we are implementing? Force : has record ID. Force : has record ID means force : has record ID. It will ensure that you are passing a ID of a record when you are implementing this. It will ensure that you are passing a ID of a record. Boss, you need to understand one point. If it is a Visualforce, directly create a page and click it. Preview. But Visualforce, end user will not click on a preview, right? So how the end user will call that page? Either you have to create a button, either you have to create a tab, either you have to create a link. We are writing a program, simply clicking on a preview and say output is coming. Now, standard controller program I wrote, click on a preview, but end user will not click on a preview. How does he access this? he is going to access these by clicking on a tab or clicking on a button or clicking on a link. Am I right with this? Tab, link or a button. Now the same thing, what I was doing here. Now same thing I am doing here. In the Lightning also, you created a component. How will you call this component? How will you call this component? Either you have to go to the Lightning application, call this within the Lightning application. If you are calling this component within the Lightning application, you have to pass the ID of the record. If I want to edit the record, data should be already existing, then only I can edit it. So on the existing record, I have to get it. You have to pass the ID of the record. No, I want to load the record. When you want to load the record, you are supposed to pass the ID of the record. If you don't pass the ID of the record, I cannot load it. That is the reason. First example you are taking from creating this component on the detail page of a record. On the detail page of a record home page. In the classic you are calling detail page. Here we are calling record home page. Because on the record home page, it is not only information about the record we are getting. Go to the Salesforce. I made some changes. Let me check whether everything is working or not. Anybody has made a modification on this? Yes, the modification is done. Yeah, I guess I gave view page. Now I have overridden with the view. Okay, no issue. One second, I guess I wrote some program. Yeah, so look at this. I gave some view example, I modified it. It is ordered with my own component, so we are getting a different structure there. What was the issue there? View functionality was replaced with, probably I might have done some examples for predefined. So not updated. Because people say Lightning is very fast and quick, but anybody who worked on the Classic never see it. Compared to Classic, if practically using it, Classic is more faster than Lightning. But only the advantage what you are getting is look and feel. But as per the Salesforce, Lightning is.
That's true. I feeling this.
Right. No, as per the Salesforce and documentation, Lightning is faster than Classic. If you answer this question in the certification exam, if you say yes only, you will pass the examination. Right. So, look at this. Now, what we have here, this is called record home page. We opened a particular record. On the record home page, what are you getting? Detail page, activity, calendar. This is called record home page. Now, I want to add a component on the home page. When you open a record, there we call as what? Detail page. On the detail page, detailed record with the related list we are going to get. On the top navigation, photo navigation. Right. Whereas here it is called record home page. Boss, initially I want to work with the data what I have in this record. So I was trying to use new component and display that component in the LD, in the record home page. Initially I want to create, I don't want to add this one in the Lightning application. Down the line, we'll create LDS service, call it from application. But now we want to know the ID of the record. I am trying to add the component on record home page. Any record that you open, the home page what we are getting on that particular home page I want to display. Right. So if you want to display the component on the record home page, then we have interface again. What is that? Available for record home page. you are supposed to implement an interface called Flexipage available for record home page. So what are the two interfaces you are implementing? What are the two interfaces? Flexipage available for record home. Why are you using this interface? 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 One is available for record home is for adding this component. If I say this component is available on record home page. What is the second one? Has record ID. When I say has record ID, then it will ensure that you are passing the ID of the record. These are the two interfaces. They have given a couple of interfaces, but according to my requirement, two of them are sufficient. I hope you are good. Then let us go to the next one. What is the next one we have? Force record data. Two interfaces we have seen. What is that? Flexipage available for record home page. Second one is has record ID. That is what two interfaces we had. We are trying to use this interface. Force has record ID, Flexipage available for record home. Now let us look at this. Force record data. When you say force record data, people need to understand this structure basically. If you have followed this structure, everything is done. What was this? Force record data. First, this element I want to use by ID, because in the client side controller, if I want to refer this component, if I want to refer to the value of this component, I will refer with the ID. Second, record ID. Whatever the ID of the record is referred by has record ID, you give force colon has record ID. Whatever the ID of the record you are referring in the has, okay, record ID, that ID is stored in this record ID. Now, record ID equal to one of the attribute, so that the value is stored to that attribute. Then we have layout. Boss, which fields I want to refer? You told this is a record. You give the ID of the record. From that record, which fields you want to fetch? Then they asked, boss, there are two possibilities for you. One is a compact layout. Another is a full layout. When it's a compact layout, look at this. What you are finding here? Account name, close date, amount, compact layout. Now this is full layout. Now can you guarantee always these fields will be there on this layout? Now as per your requirement, fields can be altered, manipulated as per your requirement. I cannot guarantee this will be the fields always are going to be there on compact layout. As per your business requirement, time to time I may manipulate the values in the fields. I may manipulate the fields in the layout. That is the reason it is not a suggestible way to use layout type, because there is a possibility of altering the fields. Now we are assuming right now I want a name and a phone, they are in the layout, so I told just layout. Tomorrow I may remove the fields based on the requirement, then this component will not work for you. So that is the reason, instead of depending on you on the layout, you directly specify the list of fields what you want to display. So what are the possible values of layout? One is compact, other one is full. Right, boss? Then, no, I don't want to depend upon layout type. I want to give my own list of fields. Then I can say what? Fields equal to list of names of the fields. List of names of the fields. Then we have mode. What is the mode? The page can be in the form of view, or the page can be in the form of edit. You want to load the record? View. You want to display the record? View. You want to edit the record? Delete. This is edit. Okay. Then target record. Target record. Okay, you told this is a record. You told these are the fields. This record with these following fields, fetch the data and store it. Where it is stored? Target record. Same it is stored in target fields also. It is saved in target record, saved in target fields. But what is the process here? Target fields will be very easy to refer. Target fields will be very easy to refer. That is the reason we always prefer to go with the target fields. We always prefer to go with the target fields. We always try to go with target fields. Okay. In case if there is any error, target error. I hope this is clear. Attributes are clear. What was that? Record ID, layout type, fields, mode, target record, target fields, target error. Okay. Now, if you are referring to any one of the record, now in the account at the side we have a contact creation. I have a account detail page. In the side I want to create a contact. When you want to create a contact, first we have to create a record. First we have to create a record. Account ACC means it will not work. ACC equal to new account I have to create. Then only I can insert the record. Am I right or wrong? If you create account ACC, it is a null. If I create account ACC, it's a null. So what should I do? Equal to new account I have to create. Equal to new account I have to create. Right. That is the reason we have get new record. That is the reason we have what? Get new record. That is the reason what we have? Get new record. Boss, I am not referring to the existing record. I want to create a new record and insert it. I am not referring to the based on the above ID. I am not creating the record here. Based on the above ID, I am not referring to the data here. I want to create my own record and I want to insert into database based on LDS. So how will you create new instance of a record? I told you record data. If already ID is given, you can refer to that record. If ID is not given, you are not referring to any record. If you are not referring to any record, we have to create a new instance of a record, then insert it. Are you getting my boss? So simple example boss. Standard control equal to account, account.name, account.phone, account.industry. If I display, what will you get? Blank, blank, blank. Why? No ID is given on the top. If you don't mention the ID, it's a null. Then what I will give? Question mark, ID equal to so and so. Then we get it. Name equal to Wipro, phone equal to 001. Here also the same story will happen. If you don't pass the record ID, it is a blank. Then I have to create my own instance of the record, then work on that record. What can you work? Save, edit, delete, load. I hope everybody is good. Followed this point? Okay. First let us work on creating a component first. Creating a new component. Let us work on creating a new component. How do you create a new component? If you want to create a new component, there are 4 parameters what we have. What is the method? Get a new record. What is the name of the method we have? Get new record. What is the name of the method? Get a new record. In this, we have total 4 parameters. What are those 4 parameters? Let us see. Get new record. 4 parameters. First, new record of which object? New record of which object? Is it an account or a contact or a customer or what is that? So first parameter is object API name. Name of the object for which you want to create an instance. Then record type ID. I want to create this record with this record type. In the object I may have multiple record types. I want to create this record with a particular record type. Mention the record type ID. ID of the record type. Then skip cache. Now, when you say skip cache, if you go with the form, if you are entering the data, auto-populate the data, right? I want to skip the cache or maintain. Then, once an instance is created, I want to check really is it created or any error. You are trying to create account ACC equal to new account. Is it what? Is ACC was created or not? How do you know it? If ACC equal to new account, if ACC is not equal to null, then instance is created. ACC not equal to null. Account ACC, what is the value of ACC? Null. Don't keep question mark faces, boss. Right. null. If you are getting a null, what does it mean? Instance is not created. If I create an instance, if reference variable is created successfully, now ACC is not empty, it is referring to a location. You have initiated the reference variable. What was that? New. I was in hurry. Now let us see this. Now it is not empty, it is not null, it is empty. It was referring. If a reference variable is not referring to any location, null. If reference variable is referring to any instance, it is a blank. Now already I told account ACC. What is that account? Data type. ACC is a reference variable. Now if I give it, the reference variable is not referring to any instance, so it is a null. When I give reference variable is referring to the instance of the memory allocated by new, so it is a blank. Now if I want to tell you whether the instance of a record is created successfully or not, you made an attempt to create an instance of a record. If you want to know whether instance of a record is created successfully or not, then what should I do? Check the component. Now if it is null, if record equal to null, boss, record is not created. If record is null, boss, record is not created. If it is not null, record is created. That's what I am verifying based on null. Suppose there may be a overlapping of standard classes. You have created a custom class called account. You are not supposed to create, but you have created your own Apex class called account. Then what will happen? It will say unknown constructor, variable not found, property not recognized. Then it is an error. You have initiated the memory, but it says unknown property. Then there is a possibility of getting an error. So if you want to compare whether instance of a record is created or not, what should I do? Check if it is error or blank, error or null. If it is error or null, error message. Otherwise, boss, record created successfully, run it safe. Okay. This is the basic thing what you have got. Now you have got the point here. So how do you create? Get new record. These parameters. Param 1. Param 2. Param 3. Now, param 4. Dollar A. Right? I hope you are good. Right? So what we are going to give? Account. No record type. Right, Amma? Is that was clear? Now, first property what we are trying to do. If you understood the last example, I'll try to copy paste. If not, I will repeat it. If you followed the last example, okay, let me. Let's see, available for record page, has record ID, access equal to global. At the time of creating a component, I told available for record home page. Then, first I was creating URA attribute. Record ID. Attribute. I don't know what type of error may be generated. Then how you are supposed to give? Force, record data, URA ID, LDS, then record ID equal to record ID stored as v dot. Then we have fields, then we have mode, then we have this is what we got. Fields, mode, target fields, target record. Now what we are trying to do? Refer to the record. This is what I have created in the instance. I'll copy paste, but before that, let me show you this. Now I have not used layout. I have used fields here. Then what you have taken? ID, layout type, target record, target fields. Now the question is, when the action should happen? When the action should happen? When the component is loading, then only record should be created. When you create account ACC, what will you do? In the constructor will give ACC equal to new account. Why? Why? Otherwise, if you try to show null dot name is an error, null dot phone is an error. So for your understanding, first I'll do here. For your understanding, I'll give account name, standard account, lightning card, we dot I created. Now, if you say my record dot name, what is my record? Null. What is my record? Null. Because we are not referring to any contact. Okay. So to make it better, I'll take last name because I'll add it on the account. I'll add it in the account so that it will be easy for you. First name. This one. Now I told contact last name, first name, phone. I am going to add this component on account. When you add this component on account, now it has nothing to do with the contact. So what was this? Contact name. Now what was the record I am referring to? What is the record I am referring to? If you don't pass any ID of the record, If you don't pass the ID of the contact, it will be a null. If you don't pass the ID of the contact, it will be a null. You're not referring to any record. So it will be what? Error message. Are you getting? On the account, we get account ID. On the account, we get account ID. In the account ID, we cannot get this contact last name, first name, and 4. When I say on the account component, when I add this in the account component, let me go to this account component. Open any record, edit, page. Let all the components be loaded successfully. I guess we already created some component. I'm deleting this. Now what is the component we created? LDS create example. Now this create example is what? I added this. Now let me open any one of the account record. No, contact. You got last name, first name, 4. When I click on save, what will happen now? Equal to new is not given. Why people always keep question mark pause? This is like this. Now when I'm entering the data, no problem. Only when I'm running the program, attempt to dereference a null object. Now here also same story. Now whatever the record ID I'm giving, that is the ID of has record ID will take ID of account. Whatever the record ID I'm taking, it is taking the ID of account. It is taking the ID of account. Now when I say account.name, save the data. Which record I am trying to save? Contact data. But did you create an instance of a contact? We are referring to account ID, trying to save the contact. Boss, you didn't create a contact record itself. How can you save? It is a null pointer exception. When you say record ID, it is referring to account record ID, not your contact record ID. So what should I do? First, create a component. How can I create a component? Go back. Then, whenever you are loading a component, Jura handler name init value equal to some function I give. Now go to the controller. Now what we are supposed to do? Whatever the component we are creating here, refer to this component. ID rec. What was this? IDs? Get this component. IDs rec. Where component dot find my get that. Once you got that component, we are referring to that component, or I can say dot get is enough. Find that component dot get new record. Which record? Contact null false. I should have this action. What is the functionality we received here? Go back again, look at the component. We are trying to create a component. New record, contact, null, false, get callback. I made a mistake. It's a get callback. Okay. Now, if you don't want to put 2 lines, we can put it as a single line. Now I am getting the component, and then I am setting new record. No, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that straight away. Generally, any example you find, you'll find it in this way. What I have done? Get the component, then the component dot get record. Both are the same. Both are same. Okay. Now we are creating. What is the callback action? Now you have done this action, right? Now the point is, if this is creating a new record for the ID called IDS record, then what happened? This record is created. If record is created, what is the value of my record? Value of my record is not null now. Value of my record is not null. So look at this. Where CMP equal to component dot get v dot get record. Now check out if rect equal to null, or now what is the error here? Where component dot get v dot, what is the field I gave? If error is not blank. Now if it is a null or blank, console dot field return back. Let me cross check. 1 minute. Let me check the parameter structures. Line number. Right, this one. If you want, you can print a toast message, pop-up message on the top, failed success, instead of going to log and checking out. Okay, I think we have done one example. Okay, one example, set a toast message. Let me go back here. Now, whenever you are applying LDS, we need to refresh the page a number of times to get the more effects. So it takes more time for getting the changes applied. It is a error handler. So automatically what should happen? We give an error handler. So what was that? Record created. Record created. So the record was created. I gave console message. When did I give console message? Else. Else I gave console. So what was that? Instance of a record was created. Now, when I say save record, that record will be saved. When I say save record, that record will be saved. When I say save record, that record will be saved. Are you getting my point? Now we got ID was there, account ID, because I'm doing from account ID we got. This is contact. Now, can I apply this in the application? Now, if you call this component with the application also, new record we are creating and trying to insert. When you are trying to create in the application, now I know how to create a new record, I don't need an ID on the top. If you are not giving an ID on the top, it is a null. When it is a null, I know how to create my record. How will you create your own record? Get new record. Name of the object, okay, instance, record type ID, then cache, then callback action. Now, can I call this component from application also? Can I call this component from application? So, then it is not necessary that we have to go with right? Now, it is also creating a new instance. It is a new instance. Now, what I can do? From here, I can insert the record using LDS. Right? Because I gave that to tell you, boss, we are adding the record on the home page. But when you are creating a new record and adding, it is not necessary. I hope you are good with this. You are good with this? Okay. Now, okay, fine. Everyone has done with this record creation. Now, once I enter the data, click on save, record should be saved to database. Once I enter the data, click on save, record should be saved to database. Now, once again, look at the syntax, component.find, get that component. What is that component? Record. Whatever the record you are referring using force data, whatever the record you are referring using a force data, that we are trying to create. Is it necessary that only one force data will be used? Not necessary. We can have multiple records. Okay. Force data, get it, create an instance of a contact. Now I want to save it. If you want to save the record, how will you save it? Then look at the next service what we have. I feel everybody has followed this. Everybody has followed this. People are good with this example. Clear for everyone? Okay. What is the next service we are trying to do? Saving a record. You created the record. Now we need to save the record. When you want to save the record, your mode has to be automatically what? Edit mode. Only when it is edit, I can modify and I can end it. Now, simple funda. What is the function we had? Listen carefully. What is the function we have? Dot save record. Dot save record. Find out the callback action. Callback action is optional. You want to test it whether it is running successfully or not, you leave it. Otherwise, it's your choice. Callback action is your choice. Now, save record. Dot save record. Callback action. Dot save record. Callback action. Now, what did you get? Save result. In the DML operation, there we used to get database dot save result. We used to verify similar type of thing we are going to get. I want to know whether record is successfully created or failed. Whether record is created successfully or failed. I want to know whether record is created successfully or failed. Right. Now, what was that? $a dot get callback action. When you create a get callback action, then verify save result dot state success or draft. There are a couple of statements here. Success or a draft. Okay. Or error. State is an error or a success or incomplete. We can handle it. Okay. Let me go back here. How will you do that? So we gave here comma invoke method first. Same story. Whatever the ID was there, refer to the comma, because you have to tell which record you want to save. Whatever the record you want to save, you have to tell it. Dot save. Dot save record. What is the action we got here? Dot save record. Dot save record. Now you take a callback action. What is the callback action? $A dot get callback. Save record. $A dot get callback function. Now we have to check it out. Save result dot success. The success is sufficient for me. Now what I will do, if record is created, I will try to go to navigate to the detail page. We can also write a command to navigate to the detail page. What we generally do, page reference p equal to new page reference. Okay, once the record is inserted, page reference slash account ID, return p. Like that we can also navigate. After, why are you giving a callback action? What you want to do after record is saved? Right now I just want to print the message. If you want to make any particular action, you can do it. Like I want to send an email. I want to integrate with Outlook and notify him. The actions is our choice. Now, then I go to component. Where was my component was? Here on the component I am giving button label save, on click invoke. Now, is the same thing if I create an account. Is the same thing I create an account, get the ID of the account record and create this as a child for that. Get the ID of that account, create the child record. Just save it. Go back and inspect the element. Record created. Cross check whether the record was created or not. This is what the record created. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? So we are saving the record. Shall we? Can you try one example of this? Now only. Can you try? Right? Now same. If I want to take the account ID, I will create. right? Now what are the fields I have? ACC record, right? URA, now this is going to fetch the record from the account. This is going to fetch the record from the account. This is going to fetch the record from the account. Now in the controller, what I will do? In the controller, V dot what is ID? My ID. V dot ID. What is that V dot my ID? That account ID. V dot ID is what? Account ID. Go back here. Changes are not reflected. If reflected, we need to get one field there. ID we are not getting was. Let me cross check. V dot y I gave mode equal to there is some work here. After creating the record, let us assign. Where was the component we got here? Here, right? Is not equal to null. Okay, else. Dot account ID equal to read the value. Where my ID equal to component get and the record whatever the contact I created, contact dot account ID equal to my ID. Because I was trying to assign contact with account ID there. Probably because of that we are not getting. Why we are not getting the idea of the record? Check out the spells. Anyway, case sensitive. The concept is right. Check out the spell boss. Check out the spell. URA force record ID I have taken. Mode I have taken. Fields I have taken. Target fields. ACC record. Come again. I've taken my ID. Okay. No, v.id we have given. Let me find out what is the ID we have taken. Check out the case sensitiveness. Anywhere I have given small capital. For account ID, I have given I capital small d. It was supposed to. Line number 9, missed semicolon. That has nothing to do actually because it is not generating any error. Cannot read a property ID of undefined. ID of undefined. So ID was not coming. This ID was not coming. Or yeah. Tell me what is the mistake I have made, boss? This is a forced data, right? What is the forced data? Last name, first name, where is that? We are getting the error. Same mistake I'm getting here. My ID, record ID, my ID. Why is so complex here? Off your cam, boss. There is some case sensitive small mistake will be there. Let us cross check once again. Conceptually it is right. Any naming convention I have given which I was supposed not to be used. Any naming convention, my ID, rec ID, record ID I have given ID. Chalo, let's not waste. I'll check it out why the ID was not coming. For some reason, the ID is not getting populated. Let me cross check. Okay. Meanwhile, you can try an example. I will fix the bug. So let us try one example. I'll just remove this account. Let us do with the format what you have done with. So look at the code. If you have any queries, first let's check the code. First, everyone check the code. Anybody has a query on this? Get them clarified. Then we can go for an example. Check the code. If anybody has any queries, we'll go with. First check the code, then we'll make an example. Now, why did I use Flexipage available for record home page? Why did I use that? Why did I use that Flexipage available for record home page? If you want this component to be added on the home page of a record, we have done this. What is the purpose of hash record ID? It will ensure that ID of the record is passed. Now, when the ID of the record is passed, there are two choices. Now, if you are trying to perform edit or delete, ID is mandatory. No, I don't want to perform edit or delete. Then what I will try to do? I will create a new instance. I will work on this. If you want to create a new instance, first create a record data. First create a record data. In the record data, we have your ID, record ID. ID of the record which you are referred by the hash record ID. Then we have fields. Last name, first name, phone, account ID I have given. Then mode, edit, target fields. Probably if I might have removed this, you might have got the structure. Okay. Now, fields, mode, edit or view, target fields, target error. Now, what are the target fields? That record with that fields is fetched and stored as a record, which I am taking as attribute my record type equal to object. In that record with these fields, data is fetched, stored as my record. Then what is happening here? The moment you load the component, automatically client-side controller is calling. In the client-side controller, what we are doing? Trying to create a component. How do you create? Get new record, name of the object, record type, cache, callback action. Callback action is to verify whether record was created successfully or not. Then save record, save. Whichever the record we are referring, dot save record, callback action to verify whether the record was saved successfully or not. Once the record is saved successfully, if you have any specific action to be performed, we can do it. As I told you, navigate to the detail page, navigate to the home page. We have some events. We can use those events and try, okay, navigate to the particular detail page. Now these two are clear. Clear for everyone, right? So create an example for opportunity. Try the same example for opportunity.